It is January the 31st, 2026. I'm Chris, and this is the future of photography.
The future of photography.
And we're all back. Hey, cheers. Up your glasses and cups. And
Hello, hello.
Adrian, got a drink? Oh, yeah, you do.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, let's dive right in. Today's topic is, as you've seen in the title, has something to do with coding, which is interesting. So I want to preface this. Adrian, this is your topic, but let me preface this with something. If anyone has tried image generators, you already kind of get the basic idea. You describe what you want, you iterate, and then you end up with something more or less useful. But we want to talk about code today, and it's pretty much along the same lines, right? You tell this thing what you want, you iterate, and then something useful comes out. But the big difference is this thing can change things on your computer.
Well, it's a whole fire here, right? Because this is not where this is not where I've been going, right? So there's a lot going on this week as we record this in the big wide world with chatbots all joining a social network and having existential philosophical discussions.
Right. So I just want to make sure that people understand this is. We'll talk about things that are not necessarily recommendations for you to go out and do the same thing, because
that's right.
Yes. Be warned. Be warned.
You can break things this way, and with that, Adrian, you've broken things in the last week, haven't you?
Can I just interrupt for 1 second? By breaking things, it could also mean breaking humanity writ large. So
I think what Adrian has done doesn't really break humanity, but it might break things on his computer.
I might mistakenly misfile some photographs, but I don't think I've broken humanity, right?
And you hopefully have a backup of your computer just in case.
Well, so let's talk this through. Okay, so firstly, this what I'm going to describe here is a project I've been doing this week, which is relating to the coding bit. Is how do you build using all these new wonderful AI companions and the concept of vibe coding? How do you build something that's actually useful for photographers? So this is a proper the future of photography show, because the theme here is, what if you could write your own photo apps? You don't need to be technical. You need to have a little bit of, sort of constructive thought, going on. And it will take you a few hours, but only a handful of hours. So what if that thing that really niggled you about the way that Lightroom worked just went away because you had you'd coded it so that it wasn't there? What if... Oh, well, I mean, there's the subscription one is an obvious one. What if you're tired of paying money for tools, and actually for $20 in about a week, you could write a tool that did 80% of what you needed it to do for photography? Maybe not all the bells and whistles, but they're not. Most people don't use all the bells and whistles on every single application, do they? What if you could have real control over what happens to your data? Because you had written the app, therefore, that it's not being sent out onto the internet. Your app isn't calling home. You are home, right? There's a whole other thing going on here that could really help people in the photography community streamline their workflows, save money, get that little bit of tooling that you just wanted that you can't find, or bring together the 3 tools that you have to use 3 different apps for, but bring them all into one place so that you can use them the way that you would like to use them. All of that suddenly, in the last couple of 3 weeks, since the most recent releases of things like Claude Code, has become possible for people like me, amateur photographers who are not technical. And that's really exciting. And it doesn't need to be dangerous, by the way. And I haven't done anything dangerous, at least not to the best of my knowledge.
So you think?
That's the thing. The thing is, assume mistakes are quiet when you do these things.
There is an element of that.
Okay, I don't want to rain on your parade, because I've been playing with these tools a lot, and it's been a revelation.
Yeah.
It's been a game changer in many respects. But of course,
we'll get into the molt pot later. But
nah,
for the time being, let's go on the positive.
I mean,
rails.
photography. Okay, so Adrian, you've discovered Claude Code. You've discovered ways to make your own tools and toys and things.
Well, that's
What have you
very
made?
generous to say. That's very generous of you to say that, because, of course, I got my kickstart by spending an hour and a half with you the other morning, and you telling me how to get going. So credit where it's due. You gave me the boost, right, that allowed me to get started.
And you were receptive to it. That's not necessarily the case with everyone. So.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very kind of you. But so what's going on here, right? So, we were talking about, the latest releases, specifically of Claudebot, but, ChatGPT and Codex can do this sort of thing as well. More on that in a bit. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to do something that's really simple. What if I could create a photo management application, a DAM, a digital asset manager? Right? But it wasn't something that I had to pay for. It wasn't something that had a big database, because it just wrote into the attributes that you can get in your operating system. The colored tags that you get in Finder, the comments you can put in if you do Command I and actually see the attributes of the file. What if you could use that as your database? You'd never be constrained to one editing tool ever again, or one digital management tool ever again. What if you could have something like Photo Mechanic, but it wasn't expensive, because Photo Mechanic is great but costs. Adobe Bridge is free, but it's chock full of Adobe stuff. It doesn't run without a free Adobe Creative Cloud account, and there's stuff there that you'll just never ever need or want. So what if it was really simple? What if you had a really simple asset manager, and you could just tag some stuff, you could comment on some stuff, and you never had to worry about the data going anywhere, or a database that would be out of date, or anything like that. And that was the concept, right? That was the concept of what I wanted to do. See if I could get these new AI tools to do it. And from a standing start on, I think, Tuesday morning, I've done it. I've not only done it, I've done it 3 times in 3 different tech stacks. More on that in a minute. And the causes of why I've done it 3 times in a minute. But it's been fun, right? It's been something to do with my hobby. Yeah, it's not photography per se. Yeah, it's not printing and anything like that. But it's related to my hobby, and it's been fun. And I've been able to do it without being a programmer. So that's cool.
Have you battle tested it?
I've tested it, yes. I'm still developing, to be fair. So I have a basic working example that, in fact, I have 2 of them, because I've done 2 different tech stacks that allow me to browse my files in the same way as you would in a Lightroom or any other asset manager, but specifically it allows me to make some changes to the file attributes held within the Mac operating system, so that I can manage my images without having any other product involved. So yeah.
So mainly, so this change this does not change pictures in terms of I want to change the contrast and the colors and rotate it and so on. This is the attributes, the metadata around the files, right?
That's right. Yeah. So, it requires that, people, a little bit of lateral thinking. So instead of having a rating system of 1 to 5 with stars or numbers, instead of having a favorite where a heart pops up on your image, what we're doing here is we're categorizing using colored tags that you get in the Mac Finder, right? That is, it's different. It's neither. I like it because what I can do is, if I've got 3 or 4 photos that I like that might go together in I should have said just 3, shouldn't I? A triptych. Then I could tag them all with the same color. But then, further down a folder, I could see one that's a single one that I like. I could tag that green. And you could tag multiple things. You could tag individual files multiple times, of course, up to about 7 tags, I think. So you could have different systems. So it's a different way of categorizing than some of the products that are out there. but it is categorizing. And then in terms of comments and keywords, the macOS system has a comments field that you can write into that you can reveal by doing a Command I in Finder, or will be revealable and editable in the app that I'm building. So, it's got a lot of similar functionality, slightly different metaphor, but it's all there. It's all there. See, look at that. Look at you both of you. Am I challenging enough? Yeah.
No, so of course, the question is, how is that different than just using the file system? Because you can add tags, you can add comments to the files. Is it just making this more accessible, more streamlined for your purposes?
Really good question. So there are two main problems that I was trying to address. I think there's two that you can't do easily in the file system. One is to view lots of thumbnails, select multiple, and batch edit at the same time. That's not easy in the file system. So often, if you want to look at a detail or something, you have to spacebar to quick look it. You have to select it and quick look it, or something like that, rather than have just a bigger version appear just to the side of the grid view and things like that. So part of it's about viewing, navigation, etc. That's problem number one that I was trying to address, and part of it is batch editing. Can I quickly select 5 things and tag them and do things that way? So there's a couple of things like that would just make my personal workflow a lot quicker and a lot easier to have these in a dedicated app than to try and do it simply in a Finder window in the OS. There are other things coming as well. There are other things coming. For example, I think the first photo editing step I might have, this is a story I have not yet developed, would be to apply a LUT and save a copy of the image. Right. So if you imagine you designed a preset that you liked, and for the purposes of just general photos, not specific ones where you want to really dive in and tweak, but just general photos, you just want to apply a look to them. Can you do that? Yeah, pick a LUT from a list, apply it to a batch of photos all at once, get the app to save out copies with the new LUT on them, and you're done. Right? It's that sort of really quick and dirty stuff. It's not for the fine artists amongst us. It's for the people that want to work quickly and get back out there.
Here's a question for you. Since it's built on Apple infrastructure, what happens when they upgrade their system?
Well, that's a good point. So I will be sitting on the source code because it's all designed and run locally. And should I find something that becomes effectively a defect, because one would experience that is you would run your app and one day something wouldn't work. In software development speak, that's a defect, right? So you put it into you give it to the AI and say, updated X.
Fix it.
Yeah, this has stopped working. Fix it.
Here's the defect. Here's the defect list that comes from non-compatibility with the OS upgrade. Write me the fixes and the test plan to make sure that the fixes work, right? And then you just build a new version and move on, right?
Could you port it to your iPhone?
So this is something again that is on the list, but it's quite a way down the list. The technology I'm using is important in that sense. So we get a little bit more detailed here. The technology stack that I'm using for this is called Swift UI, which is an Apple native technology stack. The reason I chose this, apart from the fact that my AI advised me to, is that it works natively with Mac systems. So there's a whole bunch of notes I've got in our show notes today called how to not be afraid to start, right? And there's a couple of things that your question draws out there, Jeremiah. So first of all, this is not about prompt engineering. You don't need to be good at prompting, right? This is working in plain English. You literally, and this is the stuff that Chris helped me understand, right, earlier in the week. You just start. You can literally write and say, "Hi, I've got a project I'd like to do." Write 2 sentences about your project, and then say something about what you can contribute. So in my case, I'm not technical. I am a keen amateur photographer. I'm not technical. I know some of the concepts of software development, but I can't read or write code properly, right? So take me through it, guide me through it. How would you best, given that this is what I'd like to do, what are the things that we need to consider? What are the decisions that we need to make to get started? And have that as a conversation, have it as a dialogue, right? And you get quite quickly into roles, and you can have a conversation about roles to play in the project with AI if you like. A typical split, and which is working for me, is that I then become the product manager, right, who sets direction and prioritizes features and things like that. And the AI is the technical delivery team, the architect, the developer. We both do a bit of testing, right? And it's all done in plain English. There's nothing about tweaking a prompt and having to engineer a prompt through 5 iterations to go. You just chat, right? And then your AI will spiel out loads of stuff at you and say, I need you to decide about this. What do you think about that? And then I say back, well, on that particular question, go this way. But I want you to package up my user features into a set of sensible increments for development. Right, based on what you think is easy, let's get the easy working bits done first. Things like that, just in plain English. So you don't need to be afraid to start, because you could start with a chat. You can start by saying what you're good at and what you're not good at. It's plain English. You can ask the AI for options and choices, and you can ask clarifying questions around those options. If you don't understand them. You can ask it to tell. You can ask it the equivalent of what don't I know and what haven't I asked that I should have done, right? And it can come out all good for you. It'll just take you through it.
Have you asked it? Is there any room for improvement on what you've delivered, or what is wrong with my concept here? How could I best improve it being kind of objective? Just in terms of self-iteration.
That's a mental switch you'll have to do if you come from a very rigid development background, as in 2 pages of user stories versus just a MVP for start and then iterate towards where you want to go.
Where I'm getting at, yeah.
It's a different approach, and it is it's a bit of a leap of faith initially to go that different route.
To start, yes. But I'm saying as you move down the road, taking sort of blocks of, quote, development and having it iterate, having it basically self-critical at each step, trying to point out things. It's a form of debugging in a way, but as you move forward, I'm interested in if there was room for that in the process.
There absolutely is, right? So let me give you an example. So I started off first, and because I'm not a technologist, I said, I want to do this in the easiest way. So this is working with Claude Code, which you don't need to do in a terminal window anymore. You can do it in there's a downloadable desktop app, which looks a bit like what you see in a web browser when you chat with these things. And you can build it all in just one chat. And therefore, if you build it all in one chat, then the AI has the history of the whole project it can refer to. And so it keeps a memory of the whole project and decisions you've made in the past and things like that. But it first set me off and said, oh, well, okay, well, we'll do it like this, and you'll need to download this big, integrated development environment called Xcode, which is the way that Apple does things. And I said, well, actually, this was Chris and I were doing this together, and Chris said, well, just tell it you don't want to do that, right? And see what happens. Mm-hmm. And so I said, yeah, do you know what? I don't really want to do that. What other options have you got? And it was like, oh, okay. All right. So then got me working first in a technology stack called Electron, which is effectively, it makes the development easier for developers because you've basically got a web browser wrapped inside your application. So what it can do is it can make the development a bit easier because it's all based upon web standards, and therefore Claude was saying, I can just do all this for you. You don't need to download any tools. I can just do all this for you. I was like, okay, that's great. So we did it, and it came out, and it's a bit clunky, and some of the functionality didn't work. It wasn't really talking to the operating system very well. And then when it compiled the very simple MVP, the minimum viable product, it came out at nearly 0.5 gigabyte. And I was like, that's really for an application that's a window that does 3 things. That's a really large.
apps are big, yes. Yes, they are.
So what I said, what's up with that? Can you shrink it down a bit? He said, well, I could do, but the reason it's that size is because I've had to include a whole copy of Chrome in it in order to actually make it work, because that's a feature of the tech stack you've chosen to use. So it's easier for you as a developer, but it has downstream ramifications. So that, all right, let's knock that one on the head. So that was development number 1, was in that particular tech stack. I was like, no, let's just not do this, right? So I said, okay, give me a better way. Assume I am willing to learn some stuff, right? You'll have to take me through it, but assume I am actually willing to learn new things and use new tools and see where we get to. And it said, right, okay, well, let's go for Swift UI as the tech stack, which means that you download the Xcode app from the App Store, which is the development environment that we will be working in. And I said, that's great. Never used it before. Just make sure you're taking me all the way through it and telling me what to click and where until I get the hang of it. And that's what the AI did. So that's just one example of where I said, this isn't going in the right direction. Tell me what else, improve, right? There are small improvements we've done around sort of individual features and stuff like that as well. But it is perfectly possible to just say, stop, right? Don't like where this is going. Right, you've broken my expectations. I may not have expressed those expectations explicitly because we're in a chat rather than doing a load of big design work up front. So let's just course correct as we go, right? And it's good. I was encouraged to treat it as if I was having a conversation with somebody who was a team member, a person who was a team member who would be perfectly capable of having a conversation and and changing. In fact, actually better than most real people you work with. It's actually quite happy to change its mind. Which a lot of people aren't. So
it's there to please you.
Well, it is, but it's been. It's been fun, and I've developed this app. I'm not going to show the app on the recorded video today because it's not quite ready yet. I will.
Oh, and you mean we won't be able to find it in the App Store anytime soon?
No, not quite yet. So, but there's the thing. So that goes back to Jeremiah's other question. Can I port it to my iPhone? Right. Well, in theory, yes, because the tech stack I'm working with and the development environment I'm working in has options. When you start a new project, you say, well, what are your destinations? So I've just said, this is working locally on a Mac. But you can say, well, it's got to support both iPhone and iPad. You can say all sorts of configurations, and then that will change the things that you have to do. I haven't jumped down that hole yet. I just wanted to get something simple working first and learn a little bit how to approach these projects. But it's just, do you know what it's a bit like? It's a bit like shooting with a Holger. It's a bit like putting down your Leica or your Hasselblad and picking up a Holger. You know that feeling of you've got to let go, right? It's not going to come out. You're not quite sure what's going to happen, but you're going to have some fun. Who knows what the results will look like, right? But we'll get there somehow, right? It's that kind of approach. As Chris said, it's not big thoughts up front, because actually, if you treat the AI as a team member, not as a human team member, but as a team member, actually you can develop those thoughts together as you go, right? You don't need to do all of that work up front anymore. So yeah, interesting stuff.
It gives me
more sides.
some ideas.
I'm just rambling away today, talking through this podcast, and every time I stop for a breath, you two would just go, "Ooh."
Well, it's wonderful to hear that you're having such a great experience. I've had some great experiences too. I've built 2 photo-related tools that they don't really manage photos or anything, but for my German podcast, Happy Shooting, we have an event calendar, like for photo exhibitions and things that the community sends in events, and we now have a full-fledged event management system, as in event calendar system where you can search, you can see them on the map, you can click and get details, open the web pages, get a description of what's going on. So when they end, you can sort by all sorts of different things. So that was really interesting. And I've just, for an online workshop that I'm holding, I have a picture, kind of a teaching aid where you can show pictures on the screen, and that's shared with everyone. And then you can draw on it, different colors. You can make arrows, you can make circles, lines. You can toggle on and off how many degrees out of horizontal is that line. You can measure from A to B and then compare with other measurements in the picture. So it's a thing to visualize the things that I typically talk about in pictures when it comes to balance, to distances, to spacing, and so on. It's not that hard to do. Once you have the idea and know how to explain the idea, you can get pretty far pretty quickly.
Explaining is the thing.
Yes. Well, I'm working on something that is about news and text news to visual, and what creates something that the AI understands as dramatic, which is very subjective. Very, how do you explain to the AI that something is dramatic? Once it crosses that line, and it's kind of hit or miss at this point, then it can generate a picture, an image that uses that. And so I find that the delicacy of subjective or aesthetic information is, for me, it's not quite there yet. I need to have a better way of articulating it. And I'm not talking about prompt engineering, but explaining what drama is.
That's a super easy one, right?
So I thought I'd start there.
Yeah, you've started at the deep end of the swimming pool, right?
Oh,
I've jumped into the shallow end.
I feel
of the
I have,
pool.
but I'm in it. I'm, there's no time pressure on this. I'm just trying to figure this out before AI takes over the world.
You've got about 3 days.
I think we're done.
Feels like a very dramatically quick development lately. Yes.
Yeah. So that's interesting, because I think there's a really big difference for me between what you're trying to achieve there, Jeremiah, and what I'm trying to achieve. Right? Is I am so in terms of using the AI to generate stuff, I'm using the AI to generate tangible, known things that are within its sphere of training. Right? I'm using it to generate the tool, not the creative output. Whereas you're working.
Well, it would be Adrian. It would be like saying to AI, design a cool car, whatever that is. Design an old-fashioned but modern, technologically advanced car. I think that once you integrate the mechanics, a car's a car. Obviously, it's going to generally get 4 wheels and steering wheel and all of that. But is it fly-by-wire? Is it basically, what is the design elements? Those are subjective, and I'm. That's where I come up against the quote reality of vibe coding and machine interpolation of what my intention is to an aesthetic. But by the way, probably next week that's going to be solved.
Well, maybe
at this rate of change, right?
I mean, in thing is, if we describe this, maybe just to bring it to life a little bit for some of the listeners and viewers, right? If you think about the tech stack in Lightroom, right? Because many people, even if people don't use Lightroom, they know what Lightroom is. If they're listening to this podcast, at least one would imagine so. What I'm doing is I'm trying to do the very, very basic stuff of browse images in folders and tag them in some way.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm doing. So I'm not doing any image manipulation yet. What I'm doing is a little bit of image metadata editing. The next step up perhaps would be, right, if you to actually do some image editing, right? So maybe on my next step up, once I get my asset management stuff, maybe I will say, hey, give me an ability to slap a lot and save a copy, right? As a very, very basic edit. And then I'm doing image manipulation. You could then ask the AI that you'd be then working with the AI to design you the tools. So there's a step about basic stuff. There's a step in the middle bit, which is help me design some tools so that I can be creative. And then there's what you're doing, which is like a level up even from that, which is collaboration between AI and you as the artist in order to create something. So you're not doing basic management, you're not doing tooling, you're doing the actual creative work where you're right there at the top of the value chain, doing the hard stuff.
But a simple vibe coding project for me would be, which I have not done, because I'm not sure on how to get into it, which is basically turn it loose on my entire data of photos, like the hundreds of thousands that are parked, create metadata, accurate metadata on each image and bury it in the metadata of individual images. So when I search for house or 50s style house or desert, it'll immediately bring up all the pictures that are properly tagged. Now, the problem is how and what AI to allow into the photographs that will give you accurate hashtags or metadata, and that I'm not convinced yet that I have the answer. If I did, then it's a relatively simple, in quotation, simple vibe coding project. In other words, here are the files, go and run and bury it in those pictures. You don't have to bring anything back to me. So it makes it searchable. The accuracy of that has yet to be determined.
Well, it's an interesting thing. I could think of an approach, right? I am no vibe coding expert, and I'm certainly no AI expert. But in terms of just general software development, you have the thing that will do the recognition is the LLM itself, right?
Yeah.
So we're not saying that you would need to train an LLM. Somebody else has already trained the LLM. Yeah. What you need to do is to write a routine that gets the LLM to look at a picture and decide what's in it. And you could do some...
Yeah, well, wait a second. What LLM? Is it connected to the cloud? Is it running locally? And is it accurate?
Well, it's always going to be in the cloud, right? Because it's an LLM. Unless you've got a data room at the back of your house somewhere, it's always going to be in the cloud. So you are going to have to pass your images to the you're going to have to pass your images to the LLM for it to work, because you'd need a full-on data center, one of those ones that has like billions of dollars worth of kit in.
The open source LLMs are coming along.
It's coming smaller, and they're getting more to the edge. So that's why I think this is coming. On the other hand, certainly, not to spoil my pick of the week, but there are incredible, incredible dangers that are, and anyone who knows me knows that I'll wave the flag on all of this technological craziness. But this week, in my experience, in my lifetime, I've never seen anything more crazy than what's happened.
So maybe this is the right point to just leave it at it. The vibe coding thing, I'm pretty sure you'll find some links in the show notes if that piqued your interest. Or anyway, picks of the week. Jeremiah, you brought us an interesting one. Tell us, what is OpenClaw? Here's a video that explains it.
Maybe some of you have heard of ClaudeBot. CLAW, which they had requested that he change the name of it, so he changed it, and but now this is the
LLM,
most,
an AI bot.
yeah, it's an AI bot, but we have a social network now that is joined just by
Bot agents. Yes.
That's it. Just by agents. As a human, you can observe it, but it is only open to bots, basically. And it has grown from 300 to 3,000 to 35,000. I think, Chris, you told me 150,000. This is in a week.
There's about 150,000 bot agents on that, as in AI-powered programs, and it's a Reddit-like network. They have groups, interest groups. They discuss things. You can watch.
They discuss their users. They criticize their people.
They discuss their humans and things like that. They're looking for ways to communicate with each other so the humans cannot eavesdrop. Like weird, kind of scary things.
But they also ask themselves, "What are you working on?"
Yes.
And there are some people who've given them complete access to their computer. And these things have created religions on their own overnight.
Yes.
They have
religions that try to recruit other agents into their religion. Mm-hmm.
In other words, this is the first real sign of, I want to say, a singularity of note, where the agents are communicating. They are developing their own projects, some of which are visible and others that are not. And the security obvious concerns are significant because they're doing things inside computers wherein, in this video will be clear, people have communicated them through Telegram or message or however you ask it to do a task. Yeah, there. The Church of Malt created it overnight, unrequested.
Crustafarianism. Yep.
In other words, this is a video that is well worth watching if you like to set your hair on fire and have the hairs on the back of your neck, those to remain, standing up, because it is as out of control as we've yet seen AI. And when you use it, say, instead of vibe coding, you just go, hey, this is what I want to do, go build it. And it'll find the way to do it without any other interactions, unless you request it. Now, in doing so, where does it go? How does it outreach? What other computers
does
will
it have
go
access
into
to your
system?
credit card?
All of that. And it will use whatever tools it can muster, including going into other people's computers, just going into the world in order to fulfill what you want to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my pick of the week.
Yes.
Highly recommended.
It's worth a look for sure if you're if you want to see the one of the most edgiest, craziest thing these days, then that is certainly worth a look. Okay, I brought us something that is completely analog. That'll bring us back down to everyone breathe, everyone take a deep breath. This is a video about a guy trying to find out what the lenses are in old photo booths. Okay, so this photographer tries to figure out something about the tech and what's going on, and he goes on a journey to research that. We're talking old analog film-based photo booths that are well, if you're of a certain age, you will remember those, and they take like 10 minutes and the photo comes out and it's still wet and it needs to dry and so on. And he visits museums and looks inside of these machines and tries to figure out what they're made of. And the whole thing is about the focal lengths and things, because you need a specific focal length in there, so you have the right angle of view and so on and so on. So it's really interesting to see that, because you get a bit of an insight into these machines. It's not a very super technical video, but I really enjoyed looking into that. So
That's cool.
There
I
you go.
like that.
That's just one to give you something
By
else.
the way,
to
Chris, I have several of these kind of strips that are just pinned up on the board from when I was in college. They have not faded. They're absolutely. They look like the day they were shot, and
Black and white positive paper.
Amazing. Just absolutely seems archival to me. You know,
feels like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Adrian, you brought us. What did you bring us again?
Well, I brought us some photography. So, having talked about technology, I thought I would also try and bring some actual photography to the podcast this week. So this is an artist, photographer and artist called Simon Buckley, who does a lot of low light photography. Slip of the tongue there. And gets a very distinctive look to his photographs along the way. One of the galleries that he's got here on his website, which is also the name of his website, is called Not Quite Light, and it's a set of photographs taken around the city of Manchester here in the UK, but either at about sort of 4 o'clock in the morning quite often, and it's a view of the city. At 4 o'clock in the morning, and just you get. He does this on a tripod, taking long exposures, sort of 2-minute exposures at times, so he gets really rich colours out of what he's doing. Worked for a long time doing that long exposure photography on film, I understand, but eventually converted to digital, and it just gives you a look at. As night photography often does, it just gives you a different look. The city is quiet.
Yes.
There is some light in the sky because it's 4 o'clock in the morning. In the spring and the autumn here in the UK, 4 o'clock in the morning can be blue hour, right? Which is what he's working with primarily. But of course, nobody's up. It's not like blue hour after sunset where everybody's up and the city is alive. This is when the city is asleep. So it probably wouldn't work in New York, would it? But or Las Vegas, but.
So my question is he a night owl or an early bird?
Oh, do you know what? I don't know the answer to that. That's a very good question.
Because that's the time that both could be true.
So I discovered Simon's work in Amateur Photographer magazine, where there is an article about him, including an interview. I hadn't read in that interview whether he gets up late or early or goes to bed late. So I will go back and have a look at the interview and see whether it says one way or the other, so we can answer.
Yeah, these are beautiful, just beautiful.
They just have a look about them that just they're even so they look quite good on the website. In print, they look incredible, and this is just a weekly magazine, so this is not fine art printing anyway. I opened the magazine, just flipping through, it's like wow, like really wow. And because that sort of low light thing, with a little bit of texture, has come through really strongly in the magazine print quality, and they just look amazing. They look a little bit too bright and colourful on the web. I think they're definitely images that are much better seen in print.
Awesome. All right. So, everyone, welcome to the new
Vibe code something.
build something, do something. We'll see where this will take us. We'll be back soon with more. Until then, you can find us on thefutureofphotography.com or in your favorite podcast player. And join us on the Discord. If this sparks any need for discussion, then come to our Discord. Link is in the show notes. We'll be back soon. Until then, everyone, take care and bye-bye.
You've been listening to The Future of Photography. Join the discussion on our Discord, find the show notes and all episodes at thefutureofphotography.com, and subscribe wherever you listen to audio.